At some point, you probably noticed it. You don't buy software anymore. You don't own music. You don't really own movies, games, or even cars the way you used to. Instead, you subscribe, every month, every year, quietly. This feels like convenience, like progress, like flexibility. But this shift didn't happen by accident. Subscriptions are replacing ownership on purpose. And once you understand why, you'll realize this isn't about technology. It's about control. In the past, you bought Microsoft Office once. You owned the disk, the license, the box. Now it's Microsoft 365, a subscription. In the past, you bought a DVD. You owned it forever. Now you have access to Netflix. Until licensing changes, the title disappears, or your plan changes. You're not buying objects anymore. You're renting permission. Ownership used to be simple. You paid once. You owned the thing. The relationship ended. From a customer's perspective, that felt fair. From a company's perspective, it was a problem. Revenue was unpredictable. Growth came in spikes. Customers disappeared after purchase. Ownership meant companies had to constantly reacquire you. Subscriptions solved that. They turned one-time buyers into permanent revenue streams. Not louder revenue, quieter, steadier, more reliable revenue. Adobe used to sell Photoshop as a product you bought. Now it's Creative Cloud. You rent the right to use it. This change wasn't subtle. It completely transformed the company's financial model. It turned new version launches into a stable recurring machine. QuickBooks moved from buy the software to ongoing subscription services. For businesses, that becomes a permanent monthly operating cost, not a one-time purchase. And for the company, the customer relationship never ends. Predictable revenue is power. When companies know how much money is coming in next month, they can plan. They can borrow more cheaply. They can impress investors. They can survive downturns. Subscription models don't just sell products, they stabilize systems. And stability is rewarded far more than customer freedom. That's why Wall Street loves subscriptions. Not because they're innovative, but because they're predictable. Netflix didn't just change entertainment, it changed financial logic. Instead of one movie ticket at a time, it created recurring revenue that can be forecasted. That stable subscription base helped Netflix fund massive long-term spending on originals, licensing, and global expansion. This is why software companies with subscriptions often trade at stronger valuations than traditional sell-at-once businesses. Not because the product is better, but because the revenue is measurable into the future. The market doesn't reward freedom, it rewards predictability. Here's the psychological trick. Subscriptions feel small. $10 a month doesn't trigger the same resistance as a $100 purchase. Your brain treats it as background noise, but over time, subscriptions almost always cost more than ownership ever did. That's not a flaw. It's the point. Small, recurring payments are easier to accept, harder to cancel, and rarely reevaluated. The system doesn't rely on you deciding to stay. It relies on you forgetting to leave. Ask almost anyone how many subscriptions they have right now. Most people will forget at least one. That's not negligence, it's design. Subscriptions aren't meant to feel like purchases. They're meant to feel like utilities. The gym membership model is one of the oldest subscription mechanisms. Many gyms profit most from people who barely go. They're not selling workouts, they're selling membership inertia. Have you ever tried to cancel a subscription? Multiple steps, hidden menus, confirmation screens, retention offers. That friction isn't accidental, it's engineered. Every extra step increases the chance you'll stop, postpone, or give up. Subscriptions don't survive because they're irresistible. They survive because leaving costs effort. The system doesn't need to trap you. It just needs to slow you down. There's a reason the term dark patterns exists. It describes interfaces designed to push you toward yes, and make no difficult. Cancel buttons hidden. Pricing pages clear, cancellation pages confusing. That isn't poor design. It's revenue defense. Companies know cancellation is not a moral decision. It's an energy decision. People cancel when it's easy. People wait when it's hard. Ownership creates complications. Resale markets, repairs, longevity. Once you own something, the company loses leverage. Subscriptions reverse that. Access replaces possession. Updates replace permanence. Licenses replace rights. The product becomes temporary by default, and temporary products are easier to control. Modern tractors are filled with software locks. Farmers may own the machine physically, but they can't freely repair or modify it the way older equipment allowed. Ownership becomes conditional, controlled through software access. With Tesla, the car exists, but features can be toggled through software. Performance upgrades, driver assistance, connectivity. Increasingly, capabilities are not owned. They're activated and sometimes rented. When you buy a movie digitally, you often don't truly own it. You own a license to access it, revocable under certain terms. That's not ownership. That's subscription logic disguised as purchase. This isn't about greed. It's about incentives. Systems reward, predictable cash flow, customer lock-in, reduced churn. So companies redesign products to fit those incentives. Subscriptions didn't replace ownership because customers demanded it. They replaced it because systems reward it. Once that incentive existed, everything else followed. Once a company sees it can turn customers into recurring monthly payers, it becomes almost irrational not to. Even good companies feel pressure to do it, because competitors with subscription revenue can spend more, borrow more, and survive longer. Gaming moved from sell the disc to battle passes, season passes, in-game currencies, and subscription ecosystems. Not because the technology required it, but because it created a reliable cash stream long after the initial sale. When you subscribe, you're not just paying for convenience, you're entering a system designed to be permanent. That doesn't make subscriptions evil, but it does make them intentional. And once you see the incentive behind the model, you stop asking, why is everything a subscription now? And start answering it, this was quiet mechanisms. Because once the economy shifts from selling objects to selling access, you don't need to innovate to grow. You just need to reduce churn, and that changes the entire relationship between company and customer. Next time, we'll look at why large organizations actively prefer complexity, even when it makes everything worse. Why corporations love complexity. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.